Will everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Rose.
Right, pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was given in the annual meeting notice, which was emailed to the Record News Herald, the Office of the County Clerk, and posted on the PCCC website, bulletin board on November 28th, 2023.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. Roll call.
Trustee Rahman. Trustee Opter. Trustee Drakeford. Trustee Glovin.
Here.
Trustee Diodene. Present. Trustee Moody.
Present.
Trustee Nutter. Trustee Poe.
Present.
Trustee Ramirez.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Present.
Vice Chair Tanis. Present. And Chairman Marco.
Present. Okay, the first order of business is consideration of the minutes of the December 19th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion on the resolution number 1, approval of the December 19th, 2023 minutes?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Whoever you want.
Okay. Okay. Mike, I can skip with my here. Yeah. Okay. Trustee Glovin.
Yes.
Trustee Diodene. Yes. Trustee Moody.
Yes.
Trustee Poe.
Yes.
Trustee Ramirez.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Vice Chair Tanis. Yes. And Chairman Marco.
Yes. Okay, Dr. Rose, want to go through the presentations?
Sure. First, as we've been doing every month, the Middle States update. Jackie, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, team.
Middle States team.
So let me take this opportunity to reintroduce everyone. I have the co-chairs of the Middle States team. That's Meredith Behrens and Dr. Waldeyer. And then we're going to review tonight standard 3, 4, and 5. If you remember from the last meeting, we have done 1 and 2 in previous meetings. So this time, 3, 4, and 5, we're coming up with some very important standards. And as we go along, I will point out one of the most important standards that we're going to hear about tonight. So let's start with 3, and I'd like to introduce Professor Rodriguez. He has co-chaired standard 3 with Nancy and Celestro. So why don't you come up and talk about it?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Rodriguez, assistant professor in the Computer Information Sciences Department, and I co-chair Standard 3 with Nancy Silvestro. We have a standard 3 is called the Design and Delivery of the Student Experience. And we felt it was a very important standard, and we have a very good team full of representatives, both administrators and faculty, who are very involved in different areas of the college, including different committees such as the assessment committee, curriculum committee, general education committee, and so forth, as well as the student activities representatives, areas such as EOF that provide support to us as well, and to our students. And our standard was really about, showing that the institutions provide students not only with a learning experience that is characterized by rigor, coherence of the program, certificate, degree levels, independent of modality, and that all of these experiences are also paced and scheduled at a level and a setting that we expect. So we are meeting many requirements of affiliations here, such as, ones that ensure that the educational programs are readily available to the students and that they are understandable and can be completed in a logical sequence. Programs that have rigor, coherence, and appropriate assessment as well. As the chair of the assessment committee, and a member of the peer assessment committee, I think, there was a much of value that I could contribute to this. We also adhere to the institutional planning, integrating goals of academic and institutional effectiveness and so forth. So we found a lot of strengths as we went through these standard, and one of the questions that we asked was, does our faculty have enough opportunities to develop and stay up to date with everything going on, all the best practices nowadays? And Nancy Silvestro, being, part of the Center for Teaching and Learning, was able to provide a lot of insight in there as well, by providing a lot of opportunities to faculty and adjuncts for development. So there's an abundance of professional development that PCCC provides. We have strong learning outcomes in general education and in our programs that are designed by faculty. So there's a very, very valuable input from both administration and faculty through the different committees and curriculum and peer assessment, and so forth, to ensure that everything is meeting the standards that they need. Everything is rigorous enough. Everything is set in the pace that the students can complete at the right time. And not only that, we also have a very, very robust amount of opportunities for students to support them through not only academics, but also their well-being. So it's very well-rounded support. We have done things such as, open the wellness center for the students, for example, to support them. We have tutoring services like tutor.com that allows students to find academic help and so forth. We have many grants that allow to support initiatives and well-qualified faculty with master's degree appropriate for what we're teaching. And we have a high faculty involvement in the program review and assessment process as well. We also found different opportunities for improvement that we already have been addressing ever since we found them. For example, one of them was the challenge of optimizing some grant opportunities, right? So sometimes we work in silos, but we have been able to address that, and with, for example, the grant committee, which can now share and communicate better and find opportunities for cooperation, for example. We also found that we need better reflection to address the diverse modalities that we have since COVID. For example, now we have more concurrent courses, now we have some online courses and so forth. And right now, for faculty observation, for example, we're using the same form. So we're addressing how can we improve that, the observation, so that it matches that modality a little bit better as well. And again, there's many more initiatives that allow faculty to get involved, and part-time faculty as well, where adjuncts participate in many of the different opportunities through the grants, different types of professional development opportunities, different types of communities of practice where they can also share with everyone, with each other and learn from each other as well. So it has been a pleasure working on this standard, and I'm very proud of what PCCC has done and do for our students, which are our goal. We want to serve our students.
Thank you. Next, Tom Moore will talk about the support for the student experience.
Very nice to see everybody again. We worked on standard 4 along with Heather Griffiths, who is my co-lead, and as JP just mentioned to you, a great team, cross-section of a lot of professionals here at the institution to look at supporting the student experience. So as you start to look at some of the learning areas that are the ways that we're supporting the student experience from standard 3, we kind of pick up here a little bit with standard 4. We're really engaging with the students directly in a variety of different ways. Across all the different experiences that we have, different areas, the different modalities that we work on, we really look at how the institution recruits and admits students whose interests, abilities, experiences are congruent with the mission that we have here at the college and the offerings that we provide. It's committed to student retention, persistence in those areas. We start to go more into completion ideas, which is another big part about what we push in our standard success through different support systems that we have, and have that being sustained by qualified professionals as well too. The different requirements of affiliation that we looked at, similar to what JP had in his work from affiliation 8, which really looked at the systematic evaluation of all the programs we have, as well as number 10, which was the institutional planning and improvement. From those, these are the different criteria that we have here, the 6 that we were really looking at as we went through our standard. Everything that started with the area, and which is most of what we dove into in our standard, was number 1. So clearly stated ethical policies and procedures to admit, retain, and facilitate the success of students whose interests, abilities, experiences, and goals provide a reasonable expectation for success and are compatible with institutional mission. So we looked at things like financial aid, scholarship, loans, academic support inside of those areas through our developmental courses, ELS programs, and then all the way to things such as our new student experience, which is our orientation class, our college success course, which helps with onboarding, to our caseload advisement model, which we've implemented. One of the nice things that I've seen on this is that I've had the pleasure of being on both the student affairs and academic affairs side here at the college since I've been here. Student affairs for about 8 years, and then on the academic affairs side for the last couple of years. So it was interesting for me to be able to see the way that we really support both from our faculty through a lot of different academic things, and into the student side as well too, which is really where I kind of came through. And that starts to go into things with early warning system, as Jake mentioned, our wellness area, Office of Accessibility Services, transfer services, career services, different programs like Moxie, or how we support our veterans while they're here throughout the process as well too. And then a variety of other areas that we started to look in. 2 through 6, although very important, just didn't have as much information that we looked into near criteria number 1. Things like transfer credits, experiential learning, prior non-academic learning. So it's like prior learning assessments, different kind of competency-based assessments that we use in order to be able to evaluate those things. Number 3, and I appreciate my teammate Winster's here. Winster dove into number 3, which really dealt with a lot of FERPA and the regulations for FERPA and how we use those here at the college. Things that were related more to student life and our athletics, the student life areas, extracurricular clubs, organizations, programs that we have here at the school. And then things like third-party providers such as tutor.com, which we use for our students to be able to support them on the academic side. And then finally, from an assessment standpoint, we started to look into things on how we're able to engage and see the effectiveness of our programs. So using things like the CESI, and then also through different town halls or the new student survey, or a lot of the things that we have, and that we're also really bolstering and building up as well too. We did have some strengths as well too, and we started to look at some of those areas. We know that we have clear policies and practices that are in the Office of Admission, Financial Aid, and Advisement, which is a lot of those onboarding services that we have to be able to get students into the college, admitted, and then into their coursework as seamlessly as possible. The ways that we do support, as I mentioned, are developmental and ELS courses. To be able to have students not only get into those programs, but can be able to move through those programs and be successful. FERPA and the way that our student information and records are handled here. And then also the student experiences that we looked at, not just academic support, but clubs, athletics, different kind of wellness services that we have here on campus. And we regularly assess those and revise those as needed. And then finally, too, is that we have properly regulated student life and student activities here on campus. And then finally, we were looking at a couple different areas, but really the opportunity improvement that we saw. And again, something that we're already in process of have going on is really being able to continue to expand the opportunities for both our DE and ELS students as they get into college level courses. So having them in paired courses where they can really move through a lot of their developmental phases a little bit quicker and start to get into those college courses. It really just keeps them engaged to be able to move through that process and kind of limits some, it holds back some of the time and the money and the effort that they spend to be able to get into college level courses. So it's something that we're already doing, but really just a continuous process to be able to try to find new ways to push them through that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, and next is standard 5, Tony Taylor. That's educational effectiveness. This is our biggest challenge. We have to invest in this standard. This is a frequent standard that people have trouble. Let's put it that.
No pressure. So what we're looking at essentially is assessment, and my partner couldn't be here, Henriette Mazzolatis. She is from the science faculty. We worked very hard, right, at seeing all the different ways that we conduct assessment around the college, right? So our requirements of affiliation are 8, 9, and 10. So what we looked at with the first criteria is pretty much what do our program learning outcomes look like? What do our course learning outcomes look like? General education outcomes, and now our institutional learning outcomes. See, so we have a lot of outcomes that we want to make sure we are meeting, right? And we did a great job of bringing it together across departments. I looked at almost every discipline. I wanted almost every department to be represented in the study to show that we're doing what we need to do across the board at the college, and we really are. So that's a good thing, right? That's good. Organized and systematic assessment. So how often are we conducting our assessments? Are we up to date with our cycles and things of that nature? Using assessment to what we like to do and call close the loop, right? So if we are not hitting our markers, how are we going back and making changes? And also if we are hitting our markers, so we're hitting our benchmarks, how can we think of new ways to conduct assessment to really see that the students are getting what they need out of the classrooms and can articulate that through either an exam, written, any type of way we assess them, we want to make sure they're able to grasp the content. And we're doing one. Right. With that last point, the criteria, how are we also assessing our assessment measures, right? And we have quite a few committees across the college to keep us in check, right? So John Paul mentioned we have the peer assessment committee, right? So we can consult with faculty members, right? We also share information at our chairs meetings, our deans meetings. So we are well informed across the college in making sure that we're conducting assessment properly. Everybody has a vested stake in conducting assessment or making recommendations to improve upon how we do assessment and how students are performing in the classroom. Also with standard 5, we also use assessment to, in conjunction with strategic planning, to see if we have new programs we want to bring on board. So we also looked at that. And it's through strategic planning that we have the surgical tech program that's coming up, and welding, which is getting off the ground too. So we do look at those areas as well. As far as our strengths, our strong culture of assessment, we really do have a strong culture of assessment here. And we detail that in this chapter. The use of data, so how I mentioned how we're using it to drive innovative programs to be at the forefront in order to service our students and our community at large. Also, just the initiative that's taken by faculty and administration to explore best practices. That's also through the Center for Teaching and Learning with Nancy Silvestro to just drive the needle forward for our students. The opportunities for improvement that we identified, we are working with supplemental instructors in some classrooms, but seeing how we can scale this, right? So we can better service more students, right? We do have some disciplines that are taking advantage of this program and it's working well for them. We want to see if we can expand that across the college. Dual enrollment. So we have a very budding dual enrollment program. We just want to make sure that the assessment process that's happening in the high school is on par with what's happening here, right? So we're all on the same page. And lastly, exploring course evaluations that assess the different types of modalities that we now have than just that standard in-class SRI process, that student rating of instruction that students receive towards the end of this semester to evaluate their instructors. So that's kind of on par with what we were talking about for standard 3. That's all.
Okay, chairs.
We went through like 3, 4, and 5, I think, like boom, all right? So thank you very much for coming here tonight and presenting. Thank you to the trustees. We are not done. We still have 6 and 7. So we will be back for one more time in March prior to our visit in April. And I think if I can just, add on behalf of Christine and Dawn Norman, who couldn't be here this evening, thank you for your support. This is a draft. It's still a draft. We have I think like 4 hours tomorrow, Dr. Kanivi, that we've set aside to kind of 5 to sit down and plug away some more. So you might see in a final version, like some of this is still going to shift, right? There's things that we've mentioned here. We want to make sure that we talk about them in a narrative. Dr. Rossi, I'm listening. We want to make sure that we put these points in our narrative, that we have evidence to back them up. There are some opportunities for improvement that are actually turning into strengths. We're going to see them shift because of the things that we're doing to address them, right? To constantly trying to improve ourselves through this self-study, through this period of self-reflection. So that's Christine, I don't know if you have anything else.
I just feel like John Paul and Tony spoke very well to assessment. I'm very involved in the assessment practices here. I'm an assessment coordinator. I'm on peer review. I attend Gen Ed. I attend the assessment committee. So I think we are doing well, and I think that you both said it very well. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple of points. Time is going close. April 7th. That means that we have to get the report out by February 22nd. And so we're going to have a lot more 4-hour meetings.
5 hours.
5 hours.
5 hours.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, I just, and again, please don't take this the wrong way, because I'm just asking this. Is there a difference between opportunities for improvement and weaknesses? Because we're doing a self-analysis.
Well, quite frankly, we don't want to call it, we don't want to give anybody an added edge on what we really think. So we would rather just say improve.
I think some opportunities for improvement are weaknesses, and some opportunities for improvement are truly just an opportunity to improve rather than that it's actually something we're weak at. And I think it cuts both ways.
Okay, no, that's why I was a little confused, because I'm not sure what.
And if I can add to, this is language that is common within other state studies. So from a marketing perspective, right? I love saying opportunities for improvement. I just like the look and the feel of that. But there's something to be said about that. When our chair was here, our team chair, Dr. Sekenegbi, he mentioned, right? This is like, what are you doing at the end of the day that you can do better?
Right.
And I think that really gets to the heart of what those items are. That these are things that we feel that we can do better and we can work on.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's a weakness, but in some cases it may be, Obviously, we've tried very hard not to have weaknesses, and that's something we've been working on through the years. So hopefully most of our opportunities for improvement are truly opportunities to improve rather than correcting something which is a problem.
Okay, no, I wasn't suggesting that we have a lot of weaknesses. I was just asking.
Oh, no, it's good, great question.
As a teacher, I would put it like this. I don't feel like we're failing in any of those areas. We might be a C, sometimes a D maybe, and we want to be a B or an A, we really want to be the A, so like we've got it together, but we could be not the C student, we could be the B and the A student instead. That's the best way.
Spoken like a true teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate
Great question. We're trying to tell a story. That's, we're working on, you work on, we have 100 pages.
No.
We will have 100 pages.
No, we don't have it now.
We have way more than 100 pages right now. So we have to cut some of it out, but they give us 100 pages to put our best foot forward. And to tell our story of how we are meeting the standards. And that's what these 5-hour meetings are for, is trying to figure out, okay, how do we best tell the story? And it's not always easy. And there's more than one way to do it. And that's why, we have to figure out what works best for us. And, we want them to find, it's a hard job coming onto a campus. We'll have 7 or 8 people who will be visiting us, and it's their job in over a 3-day period to figure us out. They get to read everything, and then they get to talk to probably about 200 people while they're here, including you as the trustees, and to try and figure out what's really going on at this place. Is it what they said in this report? Is that what's really going on? Is there more? And where these folks have been working tirelessly, you know, for pretty much 2 years now, but getting much more intense in the last couple of months, you know, to try and just figure out how to tell the story. And they're doing a great job.
Anything? Okay, well, we'll see you next meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Stephen, proposed FY 24-25 budget.
Yep.
Evening, my name is Stephen Hardy, and I'm going to walk you through the budget. In the board package is the detail. Here's a high level summary of major adjustments. We have to take the budget and put out a couple of things. So the format is similar to last year. So we'll talk to you about the operating budget, the revenues, walk you through the revenues and expenditures at a high level. Briefly touch on continuing ed, because this year I think that it's important that I make a footnote for you there. Enrollment, we usually show you the enrollment, so we have 10 years plus the actual, plus the projection that we'll talk about the capital budget in a summary format for the county and chapter 12. And address the reserve, I'll talk to you about that. And then briefly show you a 3-year projection. Again, all these documents are in the board packet in detail here, which is a high level summary. Again, I'm not going to focus on all the numbers. This statement is in the packet. I have it broken out into 2 sections because there's a lot of information. So I'm just going to start with what I like to say. What's the bottom line? Oops, sorry. That's critical. What's the bottom line? So here we're bringing forward a budget of approximately $57.7 million that we're asking for approval. So key things that I want for just here, I'm referring to this column here, the FY 24-25 budget. So the big 3 are tuition and fees. That's our top number there. So we're projecting $20.7 million. The assumption there is a 3% increase in credits and increases in fees, tuitions that throughout the schedule that will get us, from a revenue standpoint. Credit, we're taking that down approximately $150,000. I'll touch on that a little later in the slide. Basically, working with the director of that area, looking at historical trends, that's more in line with what we're able to do. These, again, a function of enrollment. County, second part of the big 3, $18.1 million. That's what we're budgeting for this year. And then our third part of the big 3, which is the state, this assumes a 2% increase of $7.7 million. The other thing that I want to highlight here is I have this comment by Workforce Consortium. We consolidated that with tuition, non-credit, and basically that's continuing ed. I have a slide that will address that. And the other thing I'll bring to your attention is from fund balance, which is the reserve, which I'll talk on later and give you the actual number. We're using a lower amount to balance the budget this year. And the budget that we have before you, as you will note from the current fiscal year, last year, I think for this particular budget, we thought we'd need about 2.2. We didn't use any. Primary reason for that is we were good with the expenditures in terms of we had savings from salary savings. Basically, we didn't have full employment. So those vacant positions, we used those salaries and the associated benefits and savings, and that just rose to the bottom line. Any questions before I move to the next slide? Sometimes I get the humming, and so if you need to slow down, just let me know. So here's another representation. Again, I focus on the big three. Here's really apparent. Tuition in this particular schedule, I have it broken down. So you see tuition is 2.7 million. And in this gray section here, that'll be the fees. That's the 24 million that was in the original slide. So that's 44% of our budget. Again, just focusing on the big three. The orange is the county, we get $18 million. North of that, from the county, that's a 2% increase. And then the third part, which is state aid here in blue, it's 14% of $7.7 million. That's the lion's share of the revenue portion of the budget. So I mentioned non-credit, so there's a lot of numbers here. Basically, these are things that you don't see. So there's $2.28 million that are attributed to continuing ed non-credit that they bring into the college that you don't see in the budget. Those hit a restricted fund. And it's basically the funds and the revenue stay in that fund, but the continuing ed does a lot of work there. They have had for current fiscal year that just ended 2,433 students. And that was through 263 sections of training. These numbers come directly from that area. Again, just want to kind of give you an idea of there's a lot of work being done there because we reduced the amount in 01. These are restricted activities that hit another fund that you don't necessarily see, but there's a lot of work going there on there specifically. Again, a lot of students, again, 2,433. So they're doing things such as civil service training, testing. So that generates revenue. High school equivalency program, those are students that for whatever reason do not attend high school now. These are programs that reach out to them from an equivalent standpoint and then provide additional support services in math. There's two programs at Wanacue. What that's for, bear with me.
One's a GED program.
Yeah, one's a GED program and then one's the intensive math. The program that I'll highlight here briefly is the New Jersey Post-Pandemic Workforce Training Program. You'll see a little bit on that a little later. That's basically the new niche for our sector where you'll do things on energy savings and solar. So that is an exciting program that's coming through continuing ed. Center for Adult Transition, those are students, again, who are, for whatever reason, are not employed between the ages of 16 and 24, that aren't attending school, are not employed, and those are resources to help them with job skills and academic support services. Again, these are just highlights just to give you a sense of there's a lot going on there. I talked to the director there, so next year we'll have enrollment numbers, so you'll see a 10-year trend there. This will be a bit more meaningful. I just wanted to highlight because we reduced that amount in the budget, but even though that budget for 01 is reduced, there's a lot of activity going on there, and we expect that to increase. Yes.
Steve, what's that number on the bottom? Students 2433 and 263? What does that mean?
Okay, students, that's 2,000. That's a note for me. That's 2,433 students that were served in continuing ed, and it's through 263 sections.
Oh, okay.
I missed the word section, so thank you for pointing that out. And then the number above that, that's the total budget for that fiscal year, $2,279 million.
One question, is that a copy of this?
No, but I can make this available. This, I'm just using this to explain.
I'm lost.
So this isn't the board packet. This number is this isn't the board packet.
That's it. That you do have.
So when you look at what we budgeted last year for the second line, which says tuition non-credit, I'm just explaining here continuing education. You see that the revenue is going down, but there's still a ton of activity going on there, and I just wanted to highlight.
It's actually a very good news story. What's happened is we've been able to get grant money from other sources. So the solar program, we're training about 600 people for free in solar training over the next 2 years. That's a grant that Congressman Pastrell was able to help us get. That's about a $2 million grant over multiple years. so we're serving more students, but it doesn't show up in the budget because we got outside money paid for it to do it. So it's a great news story that's happening.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Dr. Rose.
Steve,
And yes,
a question about the state support. I guess we'll know when the governor presents his budget in February, how hard that number is. Is that correct?
Now we'll know June 30th.
June 30th. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have some idea when the governor presents his budget, but we won't know until the legislature gets done.
Okay, so then that'll be the real note. That'll be the real date that we know.
Yep, that's a guess right now.
Yeah.
and that's a good question. If that number is significantly off, we'll do a revised budget. We'll work with the president. Once he approves it, we'll do a revised budget to adjust to make it match the state number if there's a significant difference. And we've done that before.
Great.
Thank you. Here, again, this is just the enrollment trend. The budget's on the top, so it's really a 10-year. So it's 2015 to 2024 is a 10-year trend. That's historical data. Those are audited numbers. External auditors who presented to you before they prepare report, they audit the actual total number of credits. The top number here, the 2025, that's what we're budgeting for this budget that we're presenting before you. That's a 3% increase, just slightly less than 3%. On the expense side, again, I'll just stay focused on the big three. There are a lot of numbers here, but the narrative that explains these in addition to the schedules in the board packet. So the lion's share is going to be salaries. And what we try to do here, always instruction, they'll increase every year. One number that I didn't include in the narrative, I basically talked about significant increases with the raise, bad debt expense. We have a contingency for new programs, and then there's also 360,000 in new programs, welding, auto, and wellness. Those are built in the budget, so that's explains the increase for instruction. I want to highlight the reserve here. I said addition to reserve. So in the audit, the auditors said it was $1,022,000 some cents. Here you see 830, and here you see it because so these three funds here, these are not 01 funds, but they are approved by the board. So food service should be self-sufficient. Basically, the revenue should support itself. If it doesn't, the shortfall comes from the reserve. Same for childcare. Even though we receive the funding from the Patterson School District, if it's short, it will come from the 01 and SGA. The same. The board approves a fee for SGA. So typically, where you'll see a difference, it would be in food service and childcare. And again, if there's a shortfall there, we cover it. So for this presentation, it just shows 830 versus the $1,000,002, which is actually is sitting in 01. And the actual number is this is just 01 related activity, 1,022,537 surplus for the fiscal year for the audited numbers for the financial statements that you received last month. Any questions before I move to the next page? Okay. Another presentation for the numbers you just saw. It's easier to digest. Again, the lion's shares and instructions, that's 40% or approximately $22 million. And everything else pretty much is aligned with historical trends, so there's nothing really there that jumps out. Bottom number total, that's our operating budget. Obviously, the revenues need to match the expenditures, and they do. I'll just move to the next slide. Here's a good representation. This is the same numbers cut differently. So how much do we spend in salaries? So we're budgeting $33.5 million. That assumes full employment. That's 279 full-time positions with benefits. we have 15 vacancies, and so in those cases where we have vacancies, we just assume they have a benefits plan for family, so it's a little bit more, we assume we're more conservatives, we want to make that a bit higher, and if there's some savings there, we'll benefit from it. So the 15 positions that are not filled, that's typically where we see our surplus. At any given point in the fiscal year, there are 15 to 20 positions open, and that's where we really see our savings. You will see it in salaries and then also fringe. So the fringe budget is 9.2 million approximately. Again, I talk about savings. If you look at the actual, this column here, the 2023, it actually came in at 8.3, and I don't think we'll do that well this year, but we're optimistic that we will have some savings. We budget at full strength. The debt service is 1.9 million. The debt service is 828,000, which we budget for. Actually here, so that's just principal only. You just transfer the money in 06. There's extra money there to pay the debt service, so that's why that number doesn't match the budget. Again, that savings rolls to the bottom line. Because it was pre-funded, again, there's enough money to fund the principal interest payment for the bond. Utilities, we budgeted 1.8 million, slightly ahead of last year of the current budget. But if you take a look at our actuals, 1.58. We think that's a pretty good number for the budget this year. Again, what we can't control about summer, the number of days we actually really use AC, because that's really the driver for the utilities bill. So again, we think that's a good number, 1.8 million. And the required expenses here have an asterisk, things that we absolutely have to pay. Obviously, we have to pay credit card fees, but students pay with credit cards, audit fees, there's some other things listed here in the asterisk. And so the budget for expenses that we have no control over that we expect to pay is approximately 916,000. This schedule is really good because it shows the remaining college expenses. That's what we have for everything else. So memberships, folks who go to conference, continuing ed, those type of things. That's what's available to from a discretionary standpoint. So, any questions before I move to the next slide? That's a big number compared to current operating budget, so that's a good move for the institution.
Yes. Steve, do you anticipate that utilities are going to start to go down with this ESAP project that's going on in the future?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like it's going up, not it.
So that's a two-part question. You're not going to actually see it go down. What we hope to see is it static, because all the this new infrastructure has a cost to it, and we're going to have to fund those costs through the savings. So what we expect is we'll see utilities hold where we are, but we'll have savings, and we'll pay for those savings from buying new HVACs, new lighting, things of that nature. So we're going to fund current and future projects through our savings.
Plus, the work is being done in FY 25 and FY 26. So you won't even see.
Yeah, but isn't that coming out of capital rather than, isn't that coming out of capital? I thought that was capital, no? It was coming out of.
Some of it is.
Some of it is. We had a shortfall.
Okay.
But most of it is being paid for by the savings.
Oh, okay, all right.
Question, thank you. Any more questions?
I just have a quick question. You said there were 15 vacancies,
Yes.
right? So their benefits, are you able to take that and put it in the fund balance? Because I see 18.9% had to come out to balance the budget. So is that, are you gonna do what you guys do?
So that's a great question. And I'll go back again here. That's a great question. That is, oops, sorry. And that's why last year we budgeted 2.2 million. We didn't use any of that for that exact reason. The salaries we budgeted, they were.
Actually, this year we budgeted 2.2 million.
Last year we budgeted 2 as well.
Yeah.
But we didn't use them. But that's why, because we have those vacant positions, whatever we thought we were gonna spend on the benefits, we didn't, as well as their salaries.
So wait a second, I'm not confused. Does that assume that they're gonna be all filled? Is that what that 2.253 is?
Yes.
Yes.
We build a budget on the worst case scenario, we assume all positions are going to be filled.
Oh, okay. So for each one that's not filled, it'll go down, is what you're telling me?
Correct.
Yes.
The actual, all right, that's.
And you can really see that because, the revenue here you'll see is 53 billion. We didn't get 53 billion. We got 48. How did we get a savings? We got the savings from the positions.
Yeah.
There's savings from other, we don't spend as much, but really the lion's share comes from what you described.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I did that slide. Oh, this one. Here, a summarized version of our county capital that we get from the county. We have 2.4 million approximately from the county. Here's broken down in categories. Lion's share is going to be in computer and media equipment. The note on that I want you to be mindful of is we know that we're going to need additional consulting and an additional year of running two dual systems. So we included that in the county capital. We reached out to them in advance, talked to them about it. They said, yes, we can include it. And so that makes up the lion's share of that request. And then on the 4 million, it's all infrastructure. In the detail, a lot of it, as you'll see, is energy type projects or renovation for the SAG campus.
I have a question on that. So I saw like the $4 million on page 25. How do those projects get selected? Like, do students say, hey, our locker room really needs an upgrade? Dr. Rose, can you hook us up? And then you kind of.
All those sources. So a lot of it trickles up to the president and trickles from the faculty. If we're going to get a new program, I mentioned earlier, we have 3 new programs. So we did that years ago. So we developed space for that. And this year we're actually increasing up, establishing operating budgets for those programs. Auto program, which we have the rebuilding that's coming up. Welding, that's the Institute for New and Emerging Workforce, the firehouse that you saw this year. And then we have a wellness program that was just established. That's 230,000. So I said a mouthful there, but the information comes from a variety of sources. We talked to the president and just kind of rank them and rate them.
And then the price tag, is that done through like an architect with like proposals or just
Yes.
quotes, and so that way?
Yes.
I like the way you spent all this money.
That's a great question. Yes. In fact, to get the bonds approved, we have to show a certified letter that the architect gave us the budget for the projects. So that's a great question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Assad. Apologies if I've it's hard to hear everything or see everything on the slide, so apologies if you already covered this. But what would you say our biggest expense, year over year, like the I don't know whether you want to say percentage wise or whole wise, but what would you say the biggest increase from year over year is, like a specific item, and where's the item where we've saved the most year over year?
So I answer that in reverse order. We save in salaries because we always have some vacancies. There's not really one thing that I can point out in terms of a significant increase.
It's contractual salaries.
But yeah, it's just salaries. And again, they go.
So sorry, you're saying salaries are both the biggest savings and biggest expense? Or
yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We always talk about what's in the reserve. What is the reserve? So the reserve basically specifically is talking about 01. What did the college do for the year? Did it generate money or did it lose money? So it generated this number here. And the beginning balances from the prior year balance, those are cumulative reserves from previous years that haven't been used, that are waiting to be used. For some other reason, for, again, rainy day fund, all the things that you have, you know, use them for other reasons, you save them for rainy day. In this particular case, we're gonna use some of the funding for, we have an earmark for the technical education building.
That's the automotive up at PCTI.
And to get that application, we had to commit 25%. So that's our match. And then this number here is that's from what we're using to balance the operating budget, the designated budget 2025. That's where we're getting the money to balance the budget for that I showed earlier, the shortfall. So the available reserve is 18.4. Again, this is the reserve that's in the operating fund where we look at what did the college do, not the restricted funds that we get, like Dr. Rose mentioned earlier, we get free money from grants and things of that nature. This is just, if we look at the college year for year, what do we do?
So pre-pandemic, as we told you, both that when we did the retreat and when we had the audit last month, pre-pandemic, the best practice was we probably should have had about 5 million in that account. That would have been the best practice pre-pandemic. We would not be sleeping at night with just 5 billion in that account anymore. We feel, you know, I think the pandemic taught us that things can get really bad really quickly at an institution when something like that happens. And, you know, we feel now we need quite a bit more in reserves. So we're very pleased with this number, but, you know, we need to keep up a large reserve.
Gotta keep. I just have a question to that point. With your ESSER monies, is that all spent? Is that
All gone.
gone?
We were not allowed to have it. We couldn't, they would not allow, you know, our monies were totally different than yours.
Right.
It had to be spent by last June 30th or else we'd have to give it back. Yeah, and we gave nothing back.
We gave nothing back.
We gave nothing back, but
That's the goal, right?
we were not allowed to keep any more. So our job was to get as much of it into that 18 million number as we could over the last 3 years. We had under 5 million in that account 3 years ago. So that has all built up over the last few years. Well under 5 million.
And I wasn't sleeping then.
Yeah, exactly.
Any more questions? If no more questions, here again, a lot of numbers. Really, all I want you to focus on the bottom here. Again, what's the bottom line? So I'm sorry. This first year, that's the actual budget that we're presenting that we hope the board to approve. Then you have 3 years of projections, and really the bottom line, if we don't receive any money from reserves, what'll happen? So in 25, 26, we'll have a shortfall of approximately 628,000. We'll have another shortfall the year after that, but it'll decrease. And then the third year will still be negative, but it'll be a lower shortfall of approximately 131,000. Again, these are mild assumptions. Again, we just assume 3% increase in tuition, 2% increase in funding from the county and the state. Rental goes up by 4% because that's contractual, so that number we know for sure. No change in other revenue, 2.5% increase on the expenditure side for salaries. Again, these are just straight line assumptions, just so you can get a sense of the bottom line. And we can adjust it from there. So this is at a glance of projections. It's a good business practice to look at the next year and a few years out to see if there are any major assumptions institutions should make, or again, help with the pivot in one way or another.
Steve, this is less than you anticipated last year we'd have to use from reserves, correct?
So this just assumes if we don't use it, how short will we be? Will be approximately 628,000. So I'm hedging my answer, but assuming everything goes as expected, yes, this will be the last year we have to use it. technically, yes. We could do some adjustments, yes.
Oh, good, all right, yeah, that's what I thought.
Again, this assumes I take the same assumptions that you used to build a budget going forward. Obviously, each day that changes, you get new information and tweak the budget based on more current information. Any more comments on the projection?
That's nice.
So I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
No, I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's Dr. Oh, sorry.
Hey, Michael.
Doc, I was gonna ask, the observatory that's going up at, Rifle Camp, when is that expected to be completed? Because I see it's uncompleted in the budget. I'm just wondering when the anticipated completion.
A couple of months. We got an update on it today. I was up there last week. The exterior is almost finished. They're working on the interior. The tower is up for the telescope. It's looking good. So I'm, what are we? We're January now. Probably I'd say by June, we should be finished.
Oh, good. All right, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
You can stay right there for the facilities master plan. That's fine, I'll do it. Well, you can, all right, so the next item in the packet is our facilities master plan from 2024 through 2029. As you know, every year we're able, this chapter 12 program, which is how we get our capital money, we get about 4 million a year. And that is money is split, the debt service is split by the state government and the county. That's good money that the county loves to get. We love getting the money that the state is helping to pay for, and the state always is happy that our county contributes toward that. So what you see here in the facilities master plan is where we are planning on asking for the money for the next 5 years. It's a requirement that we have a plan that goes out for a couple of years. The good news in here, there is not much big that is unfunded in here. We have managed, in the previous master plan, there was only one big project that we did not have funding for, and that was a new building in Passaic. Well, this past year, we put in for a $10 million grant and got it to build a new building in the city of Passaic. The only thing in this plan which is unfunded at this point is we have a problem, and you heard about this before, at our landfill in Wanacue. You know, it's now this week. It's 24 years ago today we opened Wanacue. Was the day after Martin Luther King Day in the year 2000. We opened up the Wanacue campus, and you know, you've all been up there at some point, and you know that as you drive up the driveway, there's this huge capped landfill on your left side as you're driving up the driveway. That's where they dug up all the garbage that was on the site from a municipal garbage dump, and they buried it all there. What happens is we've learned a lot about landfills throughout the years, and when garbage decomposes, it gives off methane gas, and we had to put vents on the site. But it also did something else which we didn't anticipate at this point. As the landfill has, they call it matured over the years, there is water, leachate, that is coming out of the landfill, and it goes into the sewer system in Wanacue. That has been increasing steadily over the years. It's giving off very little methane gas at this point, but the water going into the sewer system, we are billed for every year. And that number just keeps going up every year into the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it's starting to cost because of what is being discharged from the landfill. we actually have an engineer, an environmental engineer, who's looking at that right now and trying to figure out, is there a solution that will help eliminate some of that? And we're not sure there is, but they've kind of assured us they can come up with something. Whether it's gonna be something that we can afford or not is what we need to. So you will see in here, in the final year of the report, that we've got money, we put $4 million in that is not funded in here, that we will try to raise the money, we'll write a grant or something. If we can find a solution for the landfill, we will come up with a way of dealing with it.
Can I ask you a question about that? And this actually is for Michael Cerrone. Michael, on the settlement of this whole thing, when the college got the land, didn't the borough have some responsibility in regards to this sewage situation? I seem to recall something in there like this. That if
Not that I'm aware of, Michael, but that was before my time.
you might want to ask the county council to pull it out and look.
Okay.
I was under the impression that somebody mentioned this long ago.
Okay.
And I might be wrong. I might be wrong now because it's a long time ago. But when this thing was settled, there was a question about whether or not there was going to be leakage, is what they called it. I think.
Leachate.
Yeah. And I thought that the borough was going to assume some responsibility for that as well, since this was their landfill. But I might be.
Documents I went through, I didn't see any mention of the borough. But I'll check with county council.
All right. That's a big number, 4 million.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's a total guess on our part right now. It could be less than that, it could be double that. I mean, we're really kind of going blind there.
No, well, I might be wrong about this because it's very complicated. There was an insurance, their insurance company threw in money, so I don't remember for sure, but I thought that question was addressed somewhere.
So the good news is when we put many institutions, and I won't say just colleges, but many institutions have a very large amount of debts or renovations that need to be done to its premises over the years. That deferred maintenance, it's usually called, where you things that you should have done your roof 5 years ago, but you never got to it. Stuff that should be done. You needed to replace your windows 10 years ago, but you never did it. We have almost no deferred maintenance at this college. We're up to date on everything. If a roof should be done in 2026, we're going to be ready to do the roof in 2026. We have stayed up on everything. So there are no huge amounts of projects which haven't been done at this point. That's something we're very proud of, and it's something it's a great place to be. So we're able to just look at this. One of my other colleges, one of the other county colleges, came up with the fact that they have something like $70 million in deferred maintenance right now, of things that they need to do, which they don't have the money for. They're still getting the same $4 million a year that we are, and they don't know what they're going to do because they've got so much money that they need in order to just put roofs on and replace windows and do stuff. So we're in good shape.
So I guess you answered my question, because I said, what, you might have, saying what classroom improvements college-wise, it's gonna cost $344,000, but you won't have any deferred maintenance.
This is stuff just making, replacing the carpeting, doing some labs, renovations, stuff happens throughout the years where things change and you have to put more chemistry hoods in because of how you teach and stuff like that. But that's not deferred maintenance. That's more just, improvements rather than just taking care of maintenance.
Good question. I noticed on the funding sources stuff, they have, letters.
Yes.
Like, and what do they stand for?
Did you go to the, page? Page 11?
Your packet.
Yes,
Page.
64.
Page 64. Your packet. Top of it'll say PCCC capital charge. Okay. Yeah, you see the letters, MNOPQRS? Okay, gotcha. That's the key.
So you'll see P is that future environmental grant or bond act, and that's the Wanacue landfill. That's the only way that we don't have a specific source for the money, but the rest of them, we're, fairly confident of where that money's coming from.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I think we're through our presentations.
Yep, I think we are, and I guess now we have the move to the public hearing for the budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you want to read the notice of the public hearing?
I would be happy to,
Great.
as soon as I find it. All right, notice of this public hearing was emailed to the Record, News, Herald, and posted on the PCCC website and bulletin boards on January 11th, 2024.
Okay, a public hearing will now be held on the proposed FY 2024-2025 budget for the Passaic County Community College. Does anyone wish to be heard? Okay, hearing no one. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 3, consent resolution items as set forth in the memoranda dated January 16th, 2024, the proposed 2024-2025 budget, facilities master plan fiscal year 2024-2029, purchase of goods and services, and personnel items.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
roll.
Trustee Ocker.
You muted us on.
Trustee Ocker.
Side on the motion to approve resolution number 3. How do you vote?
He just unmuted.
He's gotta be there.
I think he's having technical problems.
I think he is.
Yeah.
Let's come back to him.
Okay. Trustee Drakeford.
Yes.
Trustee Lovett.
yes.
Trustee Diogene. Yes. Trustee Moody.
Yes.
Trustee Poe.
Yes.
Trustee Ramirez.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Vice Chair Tanis.
Yes.
Chairman Marco.
Yes.
Trustee Ocker.
Yes. Apologies.
Thank you.
I just received a call from the school district telling me the schools were delayed opening, so I was enjoying that. I was enjoying that moment.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, are there any remarks from the public? Are there any remarks from the trustees?
I'd like to.
Go ahead.
No,
Please.
I'd like to make a little remark. Someone who I worked with for many years and who I think was also a partner with this college, who worked for the One Stop, Lauren Murphy passed away, and I wanted to just acknowledge her and the many years of work that she put in for the county and for the One Stop.
Thank you, Michael.
Very appropriate.
Yep. Any other remarks?
Yeah, I'll just say, for many years, we didn't have a meeting in February of the Board of Trustees, at least not a formal meeting like this. We may, if we need to have a meeting in February, we may do it by Zoom. and just have a very brief agenda if there are things that we need to vote on, but you know, we probably won't have a full meeting, and we may not need any meeting, but we'll see where we are in February.
Can I just add that the superintendents of the state had our roundtable at the Wanacue campus, and it was really nice. I don't wanna say showing off the building, but really showing off the gem that's up there. We had a really great vendor fair, and just wanna thank Dr. Rose in public, but it's nice when people were like, this is nice. I was proud of them.
Well, we had several there. You weren't the only one there.
Yeah.
Because you drink, we're also there, so it was great.
Yes, you know, we appreciate the collaboration all the time, Dr. Rose.
Yeah. Well, great.
That's great. That's great. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Don't everybody jump at once now.
Move it.
Second,
Second.
roll.
Trustee Ogden,
Yes.
trustee Drakeford,
Yes.
trustee Blevin,
Yes.
trustee Diodene.
Yeah.
Trustee Moody,
Yes.
trustee Poe,
Yes.
trustee Ramirez,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
vice chair Dennis,
Yes.
chairman Marco.
Yes.
Take care, all.
Everybody
Okay, the
stay
meeting's
warm and
adjourned
dry.
at 7:11 PM.
Stay safe,
Play that
everybody.
number tomorrow, okay? 7:11.
Everyone.
Thank you,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.